Where is the one place you absolutely have to go? And what do you have to do there right now? Think about it. I introduce you to some people I like a whole lot. These California kids right here know more about progressive politics and the obscure history of the 1930s, not the history everybody knows, but all of those other countries that you never hear about, than the average college history major in America. We'll find out why in a moment. This guy, 22 years old, he's really handsome. Why is he wearing a blanket? Where is he? He's from New York. What is going on? Well, we'll find out. What does any of this have to do with the hero, the greatest hero of Spanish history? Well, stay tuned. When I say Spanish history, I tend to get like stares. People aren't that familiar with Spain. They're kind of like, now hang on, I'm sure that I know some names. Ferdinand and Isabella, were they Spanish or were they Portuguese? I can't, maybe. Christopher Columbus, was he Italian and worked for the Spanish? Or was he Spanish and worked for the Italians? He had something to do with Spain, I'm pretty sure, right? You know? I saw that Queen Elizabeth movie. There were ships, there was a storm, she was really happy. They were definitely Spanish, all right? Hey, they speak Spanish in Mexico. There's a reason for that, right? Spanish history, I get it. If you're a geek, you might think to yourself when I say Spanish history, hey, nobody expects the Inquisition, right? Yeah, something to do with the last few Spanish history, yeah, okay. Maybe if you're kind of a libertarian sort, or you like really like the cowboy thing, you might be like, San Juan Hill, right? Cuba, Spanish-American War, remember the name? That's Spanish history, yeah? Right? All right, where's Spain? Spain is in Europe. Got to start at the very beginning, right? Specifically, it's right there. Right? You can see it's kind of southern-ish. There it is. You can see that Portugal, if you've ever been confused about Portugal versus Spain, that's why. It's right there. Right? You can see Algeria and France is up there. That border is important, just so you know. Okay? Again, Max Barker, 20s. In Spain, in this photo, as you probably could have figured out by, deductive reasoning. Not in Spain, just so we're clear. Okay? What was going on in the 1930s? 1936 was when he was in Spain. What is going on in the 30s? Not much fun. That's pretty much what we can sum up. These guys, the fascists, were kind of gathering strength and making waves and taking over Austria and, the Sudetenland and all that sort of stuff. These guys were also really important too. Admittedly, Marx was dead, and actually so was Lenin, but they, Joseph Stalin kind of integrated some of their ideas along with his fanatical, kill everybody sort of style. Right? But in Spain, none of those people were in Spain. Spain was being led by a king. Spain was one of the lucky ones at the end of World War I. They still had a king. They didn't get dissolved. They didn't, have any terrible things happen, although their empire was totally crumbling. And because of that, in the late 1920s, King Alfonso basically said, hey, you military people who are completely taking over the country and basically are going to impose a military dictatorship, you just go on ahead and take over Parliament. I'm okay with that. So this guy, Primo de Rivera Stella, who is a marquis, kind of a sort of duke in the Spanish noble system, called himself dictator and proceeded to completely run Spain into the ground. Basically, by 1930, everybody said, screw your dictatorship. And they formed the Spanish Republic, sending the king into exile. The Spanish Republic, as you can tell from this awesome, awesome painting, was very progressive. Note the boat and the planes and the lion. Okay, the lion's not progressive, but, progressive, okay? Unfortunately, things in Spain weren't so great. Salvador Dali said later on that this painting here had to do with premonitions of a civil war, but He called it something to do with beans back when he first painted it, so we're not too sure. But anyway, things were not pleasant. There were lots of fighting in the streets, that sort of thing. And this guy, Francisco Franco, one of those military dictatorship types, showed up and said, hey, nationalism, fascism, let's bring it to Spain. All right? And he had friends. Yeah. So, the nationalists got to be good buddies with Italy and Germany. They, in fact, got significant military resources from them. Italy and Germany sold them weapons, sent them planes, sent them pilots, had bombed places just for fun. And so this is how Spain started, right about the time that Max showed up. July 1936, pink is nationalist, blue is, well, the legitimate government. This is where Max was around then. Why did he go to Spain? Well, because he saw that there were ominous signs coming towards him. Nazism was seen by many of the people in New York, especially Jewish people like Max, as a major threat, even though at the time, appeasement was more the order of the day. That's Hitler and a bunch of people who lost their jobs. This guy's actually standing in London at the moment that this photo is taken. He's begging people to allow Spain, legitimate governments, to buy weapons. Because, see, Italy and Germany were giving weapons to the nationalists for free, and everybody else said no weapons at all. Which was basically like saying the nationalists can win. Hollywood sent ambulances and stuff. Picasso wrote and painted really awesome paintings that are very famous. This is actually what he was painting about. That's 1936, and that's 2007. George Orwell got into the act. So did Ernest Hemingway. Meanwhile, things got worse. The nationalists are starting to spread there. And things are still getting worse. Things are not looking good. Really. I mean that. Max and his friends decided to fight for Spain. They traveled over that border between France and Spain, and they ended up looking pretty much like that. They did the usual war stuff. They got guns. They were snuck over there by the Soviets. The blankets, that's their tent. They didn't even have tents, they had blankets. That's why he's wearing the blanket. That was his whole thing. Until March of 1938, when he was captured. And the war was over for him, except in the sense that, he was trapped in San Pedro de Cardena, which is, coincidentally enough, really, really, really important. This guy was captured on the same night. He's a world-famous IRA fighter. If you go to the Irish family reunion on Saturday, you'll hear all about him. And it's where Alston is buried. Though they really didn't, he's like dust now, but yeah, it's the most important monastery in all of Spain. And they totally turned it into a concentration camp, which is where Max spent March of 1938. Yes, really, they made them do the Nazi sign. And the Spanish Republic kept losing a lot. Everybody was involved in this fight, including the women and the children. The entire society was turned upside down. And it was pretty much like World War II in every sense, except for the fact that the bad guys won. So on the one hand, it was good for Max, because it meant that he eventually got released and sent home. And then he got to go right back into war, because it turns out that non-intervention solved absolutely nothing at all. But Max won in the long run, because he outlived Francisco Franco. There he is on a Lincoln Zephyr 6 years after Franco died. He actually went back to Spain after Franco died and democracy was restored, because that's literally, Franco said, you know what, screw this dictatorship. After I die, we'll just be democracy again. They even brought back the king. And the reason I know about it, and the reason why those kids way back at the beginning knew all about obscure stuff is because Max did an autobiography, which you can totally download from the Smithsonian, right there. And the reason I know is because it was dedicated to me, and also to my cousin, but mostly me, all right? I grew up thinking that this is how everybody's grandpa lived, and that everybody marched across bridges in Washington to end world peace right now. So that's pretty much how my whole family is, and yes, I totally did read Mal's Little Red Book. Max Parker did everything he could to try and stop an injustice when nobody else wanted to. 3,000 Americans went to Spain, 800 died. They were completely abandoned by their government, and in fact, they were labeled traitors, and my grandfather was unable to work in any normal job for the entirety of the rest of his life. So, where's the most important place for you to be right now? What exactly